It's the real one, baby. Shot-town stand up. South side, don't set this party, don't ride. West side, don't set this party. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I wanted to talk to you guys a little bit about what it's like to live in Chicago. I learned that a lot of you are not from the area, so I thought you guys might find it interesting to know what it's like to be in a place where a lot of people, have negative opinions about, and just to give you guys like a real, just like the real on Chicago. It's not as bad as you think. I've heard it all. So, I don't know, I just wanted to give my point of view. For those of you who don't know, I moved here last year. It will be a year next month. So this is kind of like me putting all those rumors to rest for friends, family, viewers, everyone. Just so that, maybe I can take the stigma away from Chicago a little bit and give you guys, an idea of how it really is versus what you see on TV, which I'm not saying it's not true, but, things get exaggerated a little bit, so let's jump into it. So one thing you should know about Chicago is that it's been compared to New York a lot. It's compared to New York because there's a lot of similarities. For example, it's a very diverse place to live. I've been I've met so many different people from all different types of backgrounds. Just some examples, like Armenian, Indian, Middle Eastern, Vietnamese, Polish, like very, very diverse backgrounds that I otherwise would have never really came in contact with, at least in the great amounts that I did. Usually it's like maybe one person or two people, but there's a great deal of people coming from these backgrounds and more living in Chicago because, like I said, it's very, very diverse. It's like a melting pot here. And it's really cool because you get to experience different cultures, meet different people that have came from a different type of living. So that's a pretty interesting part. And then it's also like the way Chicago's designed. Everything's really close together. For example, like the grocery store will be next to the gym, it'll be next to the gas station, will be across the street from like the store, like a clothing store, a boutique or something. That's how it is here. So it's very easy to, get out and walk to these places and not really have to, go so far to get to what you need, which is nice. And I know New York's like that too. Also, it's a lot of people, not as much as New York. New York definitely takes the cake as far as having a lot of people, but there's still a good bit of people living in Chicago. And like I said, they're everywhere all the time. You go to certain events, you see way more people. It's just, you're always around people, and it's usually around people you don't know, especially if you go to like a really popular area, say like the downtown park or just downtown in general. You're gonna see a lot of different and just a lot of people in general. A lot of people have told me that they consider Chicago to be like a less condensed version of New York, just because, like I said, it's not as many people. There's still a lot, but not as many, but it still gives you kind of like that feel. And then it's not as dirty, is what people have told me. I've never been to New York, but I hear all the time that New York is like kind of dirty. And so they, people have told me that they consider Chicago to be like a cleaner, not as dirty. For those of you who don't know, we do have like public transportation, and it's really good, just like New York. Except ours is called the L train, whereas theirs is called the subway, from what I've learned. And it'll take you like, there's a lot of places it'll take you downtown, it'll take you to like different areas in Chicago, it'll take you from one side to the other. It just all depends on like where you're trying to go and how much money you want to spend to get there. And they're pretty like nice about things. Like a lot of people have to transfer trains in between like or during their commutes, and they don't like charge you extra for that or anything. And it's a pretty reasonable price for someone who like does not have a car or just doesn't want to drive, like it's very very affordable and a good way to get to where you're going. Traffic can be really really crazy. For example, there's a lot of times during the day where it's rush hour, like where I used to be. It seemed like there was only like morning that have rush hour, and like after work would have rush hour. Here it's morning, then it's lunch, then it's like when school gets out there's a rush, and then of course when work gets out there's a rush. So, and like I said, there's so many people, so there's so many people getting off work at different times. Like you got the people that get off at 5, 6, 7, yada yada. So it's constantly busy. um for some reason, well, I know why, it's traffic, but it takes twice as much time to get to where you're going when there's traffic. For example, I from where I am to downtown is 15 minutes. However, most of the time there's traffic, so I have to double that time. So it actually takes me about 30 minutes to get there. Maybe 25 if I'm driving, but if I'm like taking the CTA, like the train or the bus, mostly the train, I don't even think the bus rides there, but um I have to take into consideration that, I have to get there, then I have to pay or, put money on my card or whatever. Then I have to sit and wait for the train, which takes some time. And then every time we come up to a stop, it's at least like a good minute, minute and a half, maybe 2 minutes to unload the people who are on the train, load the people who are, coming onto the train at every stop. So that adds time. So that's what makes it 30 minutes, and that's mostly like anywhere in Chicago. Some areas have worst traffic times than others, but for the most part, it's people in their cars driving all the time, and you just got to deal with it. My advice for that, if you're in a big city or if you're here and you don't know how to operate yet, just keep put some extra time on your commute time. That way when things do go wrong or when things are slowing down, you have already counted for that time and you don't have to worry about being late anywhere. So, because you really just never know what could happen. Like, there could be an issue on the train, there could be, you might be late, you might miss the train, it might be leaving as soon as you come down to the platform. So you always want to take into account those things. That way you're never stressed about making it to wherever you need to get to on time. The dating culture in Chicago is very interesting, a little more than others. Aside from dating culture, just the culture in general, I've noticed is Chicago tends to be kind of superficial. A lot of people that I've met, either like dating or just like friends wise, they're very big about fitness, they're very big about their looks. Um, they always want to, stunt and look good, which I mean, we all want to stunt and look good. I'm guilty, of course, but it's just like so like it's bigger here. Like people go to the gym every day. People look like, I've met so many people who look like bodybuilders, are bodybuilders, trainers. Like it's a really big thing here. And I mean, like I said, it is a bigger city, so it's not that surprising that it's a little superficial like that. But when I first moved here, I just remember feeling so like, oh my gosh, like everything's so shallow and like on the surface. Like it feels like there's just not a lot of real people in the city. um I don't know if that's true all the time, but in my past experience it just seems like there's just a lot of superficial people here. So just a heads up. Back to dating, when it comes to guys, based on my personal experience, they tend to not really be about anything that a girl would be interested in. Well, no, that's not the way to say it. They're just not really, they're not the settled down type. A lot of them just want to date, or not even date, but just like hook up. Like they don't really want to get to know you. They don't really want to take you out. Like they're trying to like just get with you the easiest way possible. And then if you're not down for that, they're just gonna leave you. They'll even like go so far as to lie about, their themselves, whether it's like what they do for a living or like the money they have, or I don't know. There's just been a lot of times where it's not always what it seems. And so my advice for that is just always fact check. Make sure the guy you're talking to is really like who he says he is. Like, do your investigation, ladies. You know, we got that on lock. Like, use your investigation powers when you are dealing with Chicago men, because they are a trip and they will catch you slipping. You know, just don't be one of those people. So, have your charger at all times when you're traveling in Chicago, because it's a really big place and you don't want to get lost and like have no other resource. I constantly use my phone. It's been a year and I still use my phone for everything, whether it's where the restaurant is or how to get to a destination. Like, you text your friends to make sure you're at the right place, like, because it's a big thing here. A lot of people like to meet up in places, not so much like go hang out in people's houses. It's not really a thing here. I know, like, where I used to live, that was a big thing. Like, oh, just come hang out, let's come Netflix, watch movies, like chill, whatever. Here, it's just more like, hey, let's meet at this place, let's do this, let's go out and do that. It's always going out. You're always out and about, really. At least my experience. Like, I don't really like go to people's houses and chill here. Like, it's not really like that. It's more about going out, checking out the city, having fun in that way. And then another thing about Chicago is it's like controlled chaos when you're like, I'm gonna say driving, because walking, I mean, you don't really see the chaos. But when you're driving, if you decide to drive, because driving is really intimidating in Chicago, just know it's like people tend to do what they want. I remember I was on the highway, and this guy literally rode the shoulder of the highway just to get ahead of everyone else, which is totally illegal. But did he get pulled over? No. Um, Cops here, they aren't so concerned with little petty things like that. This is a big city where big crime happens. So if it's not a big crime, chances are you're not gonna get in trouble for it. Not trying to say like, hey, do what you want, like go crazy. No, but it's just like little things like that people get away with. People run red lights, they don't get in trouble. People, just do all types of crazy things on the road, and they don't usually get caught for it. But yeah, I don't know. Anything could happen. They might. You never know, because some of the times they ride in like hidden, not hidden, but like undercover cars or whatever. And they might catch you one day. So I wouldn't like take that and run with it. But for some reason, when some crazy stuff happens, I never see them get pulled over and in trouble. Um, and yeah, driving here is just crazy. It's just a whole different type of feel. You really have to be experienced to be a driver. I moved here with like little driving experience, and I feel like I'm somewhat of a pro now. A lot of people say that if you can drive here, you can drive anywhere, because there's constantly times where someone will stop in the middle of the road. Like, you're just gonna have to improvise, go around them if you can. Like, you just have to keep it moving, because and they teach you that in driver's ed, like be a defensive driver. But like here, you have to be a defensive driver and then some. Like, it's a whole nother level of defensive driving here. Just wanted to put that in there. So, another thing about Chicago is Siri and Google Maps don't work all the time. I unfortunately had to learn this the hard way. I was trying to get to a meeting downtown, and it told me that I was in the destination I was supposed to be, when really I was supposed to be like up the street somewhere. So when that stuff happens, I would just say, like, call, make sure that you are in the right place. If you're not, of course, ask them how to get there, whatever you got to do, because there's always construction and stuff happening in Chicago. And I think that, like, the satellites, like Google Maps and Siri, they just don't always keep up as well as they should. And so you just kind of have to keep that in mind when you're navigating. Like, even when you like Lyft or Uber, like my Lyft or Uber driver will drop me off and be like, yeah, this is it. And it's really not. So just to have that in mind, it definitely helps. That way, like, okay, versus, oh my God, why am I in this like place I'm not supposed to be? Like, it's not that big of a deal. Just make sure that you're prepared for it. Um, this is kind of the big one. I remember before I moved here, I was telling people I was moving to Chicago, and like one of my friends was like, "Oh, well, I'll make sure to send you like a bulletproof vest." And I was just like, "Oh my God." For one, Chicago is not even one of the most dangerous cities in America anymore. You can look it up right now. Chicago's not on it. So, as well as it being like a murder capital, I don't think, well, there's a lot of murders that happen here, but I don't think it's like on that list either. I'll have to double check with that one, but I know for sure it's not like on the list of most dangerous cities anymore. Yes, bad things do happen in Chicago, and at times it is worse than anywhere else. That is a given. I'm not taking that away. That has been proven. That is true. But that does not mean that the whole city is just horrible. That's not true. There are actually some very, very like safe and fun and decent areas here that nothing ever happens. And I'm not saying that nothing never will, because anything can happen anywhere, which was something that I even had a hard time grasping a while ago. You know, when people would say that to me, I'd be like, no, like, if it's bad, it's bad. And now I get it, because honestly, anything can really happen anywhere. Just because you say, oh, this place is good and this place is bad, that does not just solidify it and prove that nothing will ever happen in those areas. Like, you can't do that. All you can do is give your word and say, oh, I've never had trouble in this area, so chances are you're gonna have a good time, because that's honestly what it is. It's just like a chance, like wrong place at the wrong time, bad things happen. It's just by chance. It's nothing we can really control. Now, with that being said, I'm not saying like just go run into like the most dangerous areas in Chicago, because they're dangerous for a reason. But just be open-minded and give Chicago a chance. I've been here for a year, and thank God nothing has happened to me, you know, and nothing has happened to the people I know. And also, you have to be smart about things. For example, I have family here. My mom lives here. So, what makes me feel comfortable is we share each other's locations, so at all times she knows where I am. That way, that if I say I'm going somewhere and maybe I don't come back when I said I was gonna come back, or like my phone's not working, she can at least see the location that I was in, you know, and that just gives her a peace of mind. So, I mean, if you're here and you want to do that with somebody, go for it. I wouldn't go anywhere by yourself. Like, always go with a friend or just someone that knows that you're gonna be there. Um, and I mean, yeah, you could just wander the city by yourself if you're about it. I'm a scary person, so it's like I'm not gonna go out anywhere unless I'm meeting someone, unless someone is going with me. I have a destination. I'm just not gonna walk around and wander. But that's just because me personally, that's just not something I do. When I first moved here, I had like pepper spray with me, so if you feel like that will make you feel more comfortable, I suggest you do it. But yeah, I just wanted to like break that out. Like, it's still a really dope city to be in, and I think that one of the reasons what makes it so, like, this is weird, but it's true, because most of the United States, or even the world, thinks that Chicago is this big, scary, dangerous place. It has kind of warded off a lot of tourists, you know, at least like versus other places, like of course New York, LA, you know. And so the people who do know that it's a decent place, we kind of get to just enjoy you know, what the city has to offer. And it's unfortunate that, you know, outside of the city people have such negative things to say about it. But I'm just here to tell you, it's not as bad as you think. It's actually like really, really dope. I've had a lot of cool experiences here, and I'll never forget living in this city. It's awesome, and I just wish it didn't have such a bad rap. So the way Chicago works is summer is like the time to be in Chicago. Why? Because it's warm and it's not as humid as other places, so it's like a nice warmth, a nice heat to it, I guess is what I'm trying to say, because it's still like, it's a windy city, so you get kind of like the breeze and the sunshine. Like, it's a really good combination. It makes people want to go out and do stuff. There's always something going on: parties, day parties, Festivals are always happening. I just went to the Chicago Pride Festival, which hopefully I will have up very soon. I was having technical difficulties with it, so hopefully that'll be up because it was really fun. And I mean, they have everything. They have wine festivals, wing festivals. They had a sangria festival like a few days ago. Like, things are always going on. And then, like I said, there's different cultures here, so they have their own festivals. There's like a Puerto Rican one. I heard there's like a mariachi festival, a Greek festival. I mean, like, the list goes on and on about the festivals. They're always around. They do this thing all around Chicago at the parks where they play movies. They play movies in like the communities, and then they also play movies downtown on like this big screen, and it's really fun. People bring snacks, they bring their kids, blankets, because there is like a grassy area, and then there's also like seating area, and everyone just gets together and watches a movie. Chicago's definitely taught me that just because there's a lot of people doesn't mean it's dangerous. Once you get used to being just around a lot of random people, you'll know, like, people are genuinely good. I truly believe that. I don't feel like everyone's out to get to you. I feel like people are just everyday people, and they're just trying to live just like you are, and they're trying to be safe just like you are. And, you know, it's not always a bad situation. Also, a lot of artists come in the summertime. We have Lollapalooza, which is like Chicago's, I'm not gonna say Chicago's version, but it's a lot like Coachella, but it's in Chicago. And they have all types of artists there. This year, like Travis Scott, Lil Uzi, The Weeknd, and much, much, much more. I'm not quoting everyone because there's a lot of people, but that's a really big deal in the summer. And then people just come for their own concerts. A lot of people go on tour in the summertime, so everyone hits up Chicago. You can always see your favorite artists here because they're always going to hit this area. You know, it's one of the major cities, which is pretty awesome. A lot of them do like after shows, or they host parties at the clubs and stuff, so you can always see them there too. People have boats, or know people who have boats, and they like to turn up at the boats, which is a lot of fun, as well as people have like rooftop pools that they throw parties in. Like, partying and parties are like the thing in Chicago, as of anywhere, but like they're really fun in Chicago. So with the boats, we have a lake, but the lake has more of a beach feel. Like, there's sand, there's water, of course. The water is like incredibly cold, I think because we're in the Midwest, but yeah, it's really cold, but it's still a lot of fun because it does get really hot down here sometimes. And I mean, all types of people are there. They have like this club area, well, it's like a music dance area where they serve drinks, and they have like a gift shop. Like, it definitely has a beach feel, and everyone calls it the lake, though. Like, no one's saying, oh, it's a beach, because it's not. It's a lake, but the vibe is totally beachy. It's interesting, but it's a lot of fun. And there's a few of them in Chicago. I personally go to the 31st Street Beach, I think is what it's called. I hope I was right with that one. I don't know if that's the right name, but that's the beach I like to go to. It's like the touristy beach. It's just really cool. Like, it has a whole, like, a really cool vibe. Watch out for certain areas, and just always be vigilant of like what areas you are in. The areas that aren't the safest, which I would say is the west side, the east side, and the further south side. Like, not all of the south side is bad. Like, there's this area called Bronzeville that's not like bad at all, but it is kind of like going south. So it's like after Bronzeville, that's kind of when you have to be careful. I had a friend who was from the south side, and I remember he was telling me like he wants to like take me one day just so I could see what it was like, because I've never been to like that area. And he was like, yeah, we just have to make sure that we go in a car and that we go in the morning. And I remember thinking to myself, like, wow, we have to do all that just to go to the south side safely. I don't know about that, but you know, it's not as bad as people think. I just haven't been because I don't really have the urge or the need to go there. I just like to hear about it, you know, just to learn. I have a few friends from like those different areas who tell me, you know, all types of stuff about it, all types of stories and things like that. I mean, it's real out there, so I avoid those places. I'm usually like in the north side and then downtown are like my areas of choice. Sometimes when I'm like acting, I don't really get to choose where I get to work at. You know, they have the locations, but they always have security and that kind of thing. But I'm not gonna lie, acting, they've taken me to some pretty sketchy places that I would not be in if I was not a part of, you know, the production. So just something to keep in mind. Just so you know, if you don't know already, Chicago is quite expensive to live and to just to live. It's expensive. Rent is expensive. Gas is expensive. Like, the cost of living is a lot higher than other places. But that's just because there's a lot more to do. I mean, it is a really cool city, but you do have to pay to be here. You have to, you know, you have to put your percentage in, I guess. And then the weather is very random. A couple days ago we had like a crappy storm, and then today it's like nice and sunny, so do keep that in mind. I probably wouldn't put my winter clothes away just yet, like, because you just never know, or at least keep some raincoats around because it is random. You really never know. I think it snowed in April this year, which I heard doesn't happen a lot. And then of course, if you don't know, like, winters are really brutal. This winter wasn't as bad as one winter I was here. Before I moved here, I came to visit like a couple years ago, and it was so cold. It was in the negatives, and I think the coldest it got was like negative 19 degrees. So keep that in mind. I always tell my friends, like, if you want to come visit in the summer, because you do not want to come here in the winter. I even struggle in the winter being here. I've never been somewhere so cold, and I hate the cold, so that's something I need to deal with and figure out what I'm going to do about, because, yeah, your girl does not like the cold. Another thing about Chicago is it is amazing. From the food to the art to the architecture, like, it is an amazing city. Chicago deep dish pizza is amazing. I actually have never had a Chicago dog just because I'm not really a hot dog person, but you learn so much. I've had authentic Italian food from authentic Italian from Italians. Like, it's amazing the types of foods that you can have, different cultures that you get to learn from. Like, it really is like an awesome city, an awesome experience, and I honestly want everyone to experience it. So if you've ever been to Chicago or you're interested in going to Chicago and you have questions, like, let me know what you think, um, or just let me know what more you want to know. Like, I'd happily explain more for you, but I just want everyone to know, like, it's not as bad as everyone says. It's actually a really dope city, and I'm glad I moved. Those are just a few facts to give you guys an idea of what it's like living in Chicago. I hope you found this interesting. Let me know if you have any questions or comments below in the comment section. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I will see you guys next time. Bye. Holla up, holla up, holla up, holla up.